Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day life. Let's start with the video.
My husband, 29M, and I, 27F, have been engaged for over a year. We got married last week and it almost didn't happen because of my petty sister, 34F. I told her that she can't go to the wedding unless she brings a +1. She has been single for 4 to 5 years already, I'm not sure. But she took it as a form of mockery and she got so angry. I just wanted her to have fun. She called me a B over it. Anyway, during the wedding, everything was perfect. My mom was sitting in the front. She was as pretty as she could have ever been. She was sitting with my dad and he wore the most handsome tuxedo ever and everyone was so happy. Everyone was there except for my cousin because she couldn't make it and my sister. I didn't know where she was. Fast forward to me and my husband exchanging vows. My sister arrived. I don't know why, but I've got this gut feeling like I can feel that she did that on purpose. She came so late so she could get all the attention. This was not typically her, but she's been getting on my nerves. I just think she's doing all of this on purpose, but that's not the worst part. She didn't only interrupt the exchanging of our vows, but then she also came with her +1, and the craziest part about all of it is that it wasn't just a friend or someone insignificant. It was my ex-fiancé. She brought my ex-fiancé to my wedding. I've gotten over my ex, of course, but I think it was just so disrespectful for her to bring the ex-fiancé of the bride or the groom to their wedding, right? My sister is my sister. We grew up together. We're blood related and everything. She's been my best friend ever since we were kids and we love each other. But this one was just over the line. Half of the kids there were more mature than what she did that day. All eyes were on her at that moment, but she acted like it was no biggie and just sat down with my ex-fiancé as her date. I could feel my parents burning with anger behind me. At first, she sat down at the back of the church with the other guests. I decided to just ignore it and just let the wedding continue without making a scene. But then she stood up, grabbed her date's hand, walked down the aisle, and sat closer to me. All eyes were still on her. She was the center of attention at that moment. She knows me too well, she does. When she sat down, she looked at me and smiled. I couldn't stand it. I told the priest to stop for a while and went to my parents and told them to kick my sister out and her date before she could do any more damage. I knew she was boiling up something. I tried my best to hold back the tears in my eyes because this was my sister and I wanted her at my wedding. I wanted to see her in the pictures with me. Although I was really angry and sad, I didn't feel an ounce of guilt at all. I didn't feel bad that I asked my parents to kick her out. I was just boiling with anger, curiosity, and sadness during the time. I tried my best to not let it get the best of me. It was supposed to be the best day of my life, but thanks to my sister, I couldn't even afford to be happy at my wedding. But now that I've given it much thought, am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of the wedding just like that? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding. I made the original post after 3 days or so. I still have no idea why my sister brought him, so I tried to reach out to her since the wedding but sadly failed. My parents decided to contact her, not just because of the issue, but we were also worried about her. But everything just went to voicemail. Her friends couldn't reach out to her either. This usually happens with her, but she will come around after a few weeks, so for now we're just waiting. As a last resort, I decided to reach out to my ex for the answer as to why she did that and also her whereabouts in case he knew. So for context, I don't like my ex at all. We were engaged for around 3 months when we decided to call the marriage off. He cheated on me with some dumb girl on Tinder. I could write an entire post about that, but that's for another time. You guys were asking as to why I was so angry when I saw my ex when I said that I'd move on. I did, but that man is a walking personification of pain and betrayal. It would simply hurt your eyes looking at him. Plus, I was in shock because we haven't seen each other in years. That's why I've reacted that way. He was also pretty shocked. Anyway, I called him and he said that my sister told him that it was a friend's wedding. It was weird at first that she would ask him to go, but she still went with it. She said everyone she had thought of inviting was pretty busy and he was the last person on the list. That's why she hit him up. She insisted and even offered to pay him, but he refused the money. I asked him what happened to both of them after the wedding. Did she tell him what her real motive was? He said they just left immediately. She apologized to him multiple times in the car before dropping him off. He kept asking why he was involved, why was he brought to the wedding, why did she lie, but she didn't respond to any of that. She promised that she would clarify it all in the end, but she can't at that moment. She never contacted him again. He also couldn't contact her. He also wanted to contact me about it and her, but I guess we're both on the same page right now. Dumbfounded. What should I do? Update 2. A few days after my last update, my sister finally contacted us. She first contacted my mom about her and everything. She's doing well, thank God. She is fine in terms of our well-being and that she's going to be staying in the country. When I finally got to talk to her, I didn't even ask her who she was. I immediately asked, "What happened? Why did you do that? I don't understand. Did I do something bad to you?" My confusion and curiosity just rushed over me, as they did on the night of the wedding. I prefer it when things come to an end, so when there's an opportunity for closure, I just grab it. Her story is wild, so buckle up. This is what she told me. It was around the third week of January, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before my wedding, I'm not sure. She said that my husband, my then fiancé, confessed to her that he had feelings for her and that he didn't want to go on or continue with the wedding. I was speechless when she told me that. She said she was too when my husband told her that. She told him that you're just mistaken. You're not in the right head to say that. You might be tired from all this or stressed, but that's not even funny as a joke, okay? So stop it. You're 2 weeks away from the wedding. You shouldn't have messed this up. Don't miss my sister. She's in love with you and she's probably just as tired as you right now. I just couldn't believe that something like that would happen. I asked her why she didn't tell me back then about this. Why did she have to tell me now? I mean, it's too late. I'm married now. In case this was all true, I would be in a really weird situation right now. She said she didn't tell me back then because my husband kind of threatened her in case this little secret got out. Also, most of the wedding preparations were done and the invitation was already sent out and everything. She didn't want to ruin that. I was also busy and stressed preparing everything and she didn't want to bother me with something petty like that. She was anxious and scared because of that. That's why she kind of isolated herself for a while. She didn't want to see me or my husband, my then fiancé. She decided to just ignore it and it sounded like it was just some little nonsense and there's nothing to make a big deal out of. But then 2 days before the wedding, my husband contacted her again and asked her to stop the wedding. She went to the length of ignoring us and didn't think of him or what he said to her a week prior. But then this just confirmed her thoughts that she must do something. That's why she brought my ex-fiancé to the wedding without somehow making my husband look bad. I told her that it kind of made me look bad. She apologized and asked what she could do. I told her for now, maybe I have to deal with this alone. She said she's blocked my husband since then, so he wouldn't contact her or talk about that issue. Of course, I was skeptical about all of this. I mean, I love my sister, sure, but she's just really super weird sometimes and it can get annoying. It's just that this is the first time she's gone overboard. So I asked my husband about his side of things and if any of those were true. He said no, none of it was true, and the only fact there was that she did block him. I asked him why she blocked him if none of that was true. He said my sister owed her some cash. It was a few months ago and I kept asking her about it, but I think she got annoyed to the point that she blocked me. It was really rude on his part and I was embarrassed for my sister. What's with all these lies and all this nonsense? To cut it short, we've settled that matter. My sister owed him $10,000. It's crazy. The whole story sounds so unreal, even as I'm typing it. Thank you for sticking through all of this, guys. Not the a-hole. I understand the frustration in your part. You just tried what you had to do to save yourself further embarrassment. It's good that you kicked her out before she could have done anything else. Not the a-hole unless you haven't moved on from your ex-fiancé that the mere sight of him made you so angry. Then you might be the a-hole. But your sister is definitely the a-hole no matter how you look at it. I hope you get to resolve this in the future. Here's the next story. I hate traditional wedding norms. For example, my fiancé's M28 parents' custom belief is that the bride's family pays for the wedding. In my 26F heritage, the groom's family pays for the wedding. But my family immigrated to the US and we are not that traditional. My fiance asked his parents if they were helping with the wedding, and it's leaning more towards no, and they reminded him that the bride's family should be paying. They're very well off, and he's their only child. My family is not poor, but they're not rich either. They make enough to get by. My fiance's parents' comment kind of irked me because the whole point of a wedding is a union of the families, so why is one side supposed to pay for the majority of it? My parents, however, are very westernized and don't really care for those dated traditions and have already agreed to help me pay for some of my wedding, which I am beyond grateful for. I was already more than prepared for the fact that I would have to pay for my own wedding, so it makes me happy that they would like to help me even though they don't make that much money. I was under no assumption at all that my fiance's family would even help, but it just irritates me that my fiance's family feels like they have a say in my wedding, guests to invite, me having too many people on my list compared to them, etc., when they are not going to help pay for anything. If they are not going to contribute to the wedding, then I feel like they don't get to have a say in the wedding decisions. I told my fiance this and he says maybe I'm just being dramatic. And that's just how it's always been, and that we should incorporate whatever his parents want. At this point, I don't even want to have a whole ceremony and reception ordeal. Just because something has always been a certain way doesn't mean it's right. Am I the a-hole here or am I just being bridezilla? Edit. Hi everyone, a few things. Sorry for the use of my wedding. I recognize that I should have said our. I think the moment of me typing while being upset got the best of me and I didn't go back and edit like I should have. My fiance and I 100% were already going to pay for the wedding ourselves. My parents recently told me they would help with my contributions towards paying because about 35% of the guest list is my fiance's friends and family, while 65% of the guests were my side of friends and family. Initially, that is how we were going to pay, with him paying 35% and me 65%. I honestly have enough in the bank to pay for the whole thing. I've been saving a lot of money since I got my first job as a teenager. My parents noticed how much larger my side was, so that's when they stepped in to say they wanted to help. And when my fiance asked his parents if they would be helping as well. After reading a lot of advice from everyone, I will be revisiting with my fiance about our finances for the wedding and how we're going to split all the costs. My fiance and I made our guest list together. My family is large, while his is very small. He had no problem with the number of guests I had on my side of the family. It was not a problem until my future mother-in-law saw the guest list. I have only maybe 5 friends on my list and the rest are family. This includes his family and 25 to 30 friends. Other demands, requests, issues that came up are the type of dress I get, food and cake selections, and not using their friend's son as a videographer for the occasion. For people that are so stuck on tradition, they hated the whole something borrowed when I said I was wearing my mom's wedding dress with a few alterations that I would like to add. They tried to tell me how to dress for the wedding. As far as food, we told them our options, accommodations for vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free guests. And they stated they don't want to eat it. It's a chicken, steak, or pasta option. They insisted that we changed it. They also said they didn't like our cake selections either, but we and the people from our bridal party brought to the cake tasting loved the cake. Also, they were upset that we did not go with their friend's son for videography work. We checked out his work and did not like what we saw, so we ended up choosing someone from the bridal show we went to. Not the a-hole, but your fiancé is off. He shouldn't be enabling his parents, especially not at your expense. Literally in this case. Before proceeding with this, I think you and him need to have a serious discussion because what happens in the future when tradition starts coming up around family holidays, children aging parents. This is a glimpse into what it could be like in the future if you don't establish boundaries and reinforce that you are both on the same team. Not the a-hole. Last paragraph is a bit of a flag from your fiancé. I agree if they're not paying towards it, they shouldn't get a say. Alternatively, though, if they were paying for the whole thing, would you let them do entirely what they want? It's your day. If the family wants to help pay, that's very generous, but not on the provision that they can dictate your wedding. This isn't the case with your future in-laws, but the principle stands. I would politely and sincerely say that you can't afford to incorporate their wishes into your wedding, and it's important to you that the people you want are there. Here's the next story. I, 24F, live with one roommate, also 24F, and while we get along and typically live harmoniously, there are some times where I feel like we don't connect. I think this is because we have very different upbringings. I am not one to judge someone based on where they came from, whether it be from money or nothing, because of my own background. My roommate comes from a very stable home life. Both of her parents make six-figure salaries and own multiple homes and travel often. I, however, grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and by the time I was in high school, I was struggling immensely with depression and anxiety attacks due to living with my alcoholic father. When I turned 16, my mother finally took me and my siblings out of the situation, but abruptly gave us to the system. While my younger siblings were moved around to different strangers' houses, I managed to couch surf with different relatives who were willing to have me. It was a very traumatic time in my life and one I've tried to distance myself from. I personally don't want others to judge me for my family situation, so as a rule, I try to do the same for others no matter the circumstance. I did this for my roommate, and for the most part, she's a very nice person, and genuinely, I think she is a good friend, but at times, I think she can be very tone deaf. One night, we were talking about our first job experiences. My roommate started doing volunteer work from a young age and was doing at most 3 volunteer jobs at a time with different local organizations while being in clubs at school. When she asked me, I told her that because I struggled with mental health during high school, I didn't end up getting my first job until I was 18 and graduated from high school. My roommate gave me a look when I said this and told me she also struggled with depression and anxiety when she was in high school and still managed to work. I didn't want to argue, but I did remind her that our situations were a bit different. She said that wasn't true considering her parents are divorced and she also comes from a broken home like I do. I told her again that wasn't actually a fair comparison because both her parents were remarried since she was young and she has a close relationship with her 2 step-parents, close enough to refer to them as her real parents. And by her own words spoken to me before, she has said how blessed and lucky she feels to have grown up with such a stable family life. I am no longer in contact with my parents whatsoever. I also reminded her that while she was spending her 16th year studying abroad in Italy, I was sleeping on different couches every night. It grew into the sort of argument where my roommate basically told me I need to pull myself up by my bootstraps. And because I become quite upset by this point, I told her she was a hypocrite because her parents still pay her rent. Was I being an a-hole here? For context, my roommate was aware of my situation in high school because I've told her throughout the 2 years we have lived together.